Hello and welcome to the Runna podcast. This week we have a special coaching episode with Coach Ben and I. So as the evenings are drawing in and the mornings are getting colder and darker, our motivation tends to slip a little bit. So we're coming to you with our top 6 tips for training this winter.
For sure. And I think starting off with motivation can often wean a little bit as we maybe have got through the peak of summer, maybe through our biggest goal of the year. And I think it's so important to make sure we've always got a goal. But at the same time, our goals don't always need to be big and scary and big marathons or whatever it's going to be. But it's always important to have something on your horizon that actually gets you out the door. Because what we don't want to do is love our running, have all this motivation and all of these endorphins through the summer. The rain starts coming and then we stop our running and get out of that routine and out of that habit. So I would always say it's worth having a goal on the horizon. And that could be something complete opposite end of the spectrum of your running that you've been doing this year so far. Maybe focus on speed and see if you can get your 5K a little faster. Or maybe you've been working on that all year. And instead, maybe you want to think about doing something longer, build up your mileage so that you've got a great base when you come out of the winter. But so find a fresh new challenge, but make sure you have something to focus towards with your training. What about you, Anya? How do you stay motivated?
I find running in winter with people really helpful. Finding a club, finding a friend, or running at your lunchtime in work. I think it really helps keep you accountable. I think it helps you get out the door because you've got someone that can pass the time with. And when you have a time to show up for, it just makes motivation a little bit easier.
For sure. One of the things we learned from chatting to Paula Radcliffe earlier this year was her 10-minute rule. This is a great one. So for you listening at home, don't necessarily feel that you've got a big daunting run and let that stop you getting out the door. Instead, tell yourself to go and run for 10 minutes. And more often than not, you'll run 10 minutes and you'll really find your groove after 10 minutes. But at least knowing all you have to do is to run for 10 minutes means getting out the door is that much easier, particularly when it's cold and it's wet. And hopefully at that 10-minute mark, you're starting to feel warm, you're starting to feel those endorphins, and that's going to carry you through the rest of your workout. And every now and again, maybe at 10 minutes, you really won't be feeling it. And that could well be a sign that you're run down, you're tired, you're getting ill, and it's okay to listen to your body, and you don't always need to be running for miles and miles and miles. One other one that I like is that in reality, when we're going out and doing maybe a shorter easy run or even a shorter speed session, we don't need to let that become so daunting, particularly if it's dark or whatever it is. So an easy way to break that down into a really small mental load would be, I think, to go and set yourself a playlist. And what you'll realize is if you're going to run for 30 minutes or doing 25 minutes, let's say, that's not many songs. You might only get to listen to 8 songs, 9 songs on your run. And therefore, you need to pick carefully. And before you know it, you've listened to that relatively short playlist and you're back where you started and your run's done and your day is off to a good start.
Yeah. I actually have podcasts that I won't let myself listen to until I go on a run. So it's something that makes me want to get out. But I guess it's all about finding that motivation because we all know the phrase that you never regret a run and you know you'll feel better for it.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things you mentioned was kind of having that social accountability to friends, run clubs, etc. I think that's massively the case for everyone. And one of the reasons why we should set a goal is so that we're accountable to that goal. But the thing you need to do that is go and tell your friends, tell your partner, tell your family about your goal. And then when they see you, they're going to be like, Anya, how are you getting on with that goal? And then you kind of need to do it. And that means that when you're waking up and you're questioning whether to set the alarm or turn the alarm off because it's raining outside, you can't go let down your friend who you told about this cool goal. And you can do more than just your friends. You can put it on your Instagram or your Strava. And all of these little things will help you when it's so tempting to stay under the duvet.
So tip number 2, leading on from that, is how do we train in the winter for that goal? I think there are lots of tips we could give people to, help them stick to their runner plan. But I think a good one is try to run in the daylight if that's easier for you. I did just mention running at lunchtime. I think that sometimes makes it a little bit more palatable. It's harder when there's less daylight, but you'll be a little bit more awake. You can set your interval session, block out a bit of time in your diary for your lunchtime, and I think you're more likely to do that. And then you can reward yourself with a nice lunch after.
For sure. And I think, for general happiness and health anyway, we want to get out and see some sunshine. And particularly when it's dark on your way to work and it's dark on your way home, it's not ideal that we don't see some sunlight. So if your job allows you to do so, prioritizing some time to go and get some running miles in at lunchtime is going to be a great way to enjoy running through the winter that much more. And it's going to be the highlight within your day and not this burden that you've got carrying over you at the end of the day. You've traveled home and raining on the train, and then you've got this thing to go and do in the dark when it's cold outside. But practically, when it comes to training itself, we'll always say how important warming up and cooling down is. And to be honest, I don't do that 100% of the time, but we should. And particularly, we should when it's cold and through the winter. Warming up is so important year round. But naturally, in the peak of the winter, your body is going to be cooler, your muscles are going to be colder. And when we're going to be pushing them hard, we want to make sure that they're at operating temperatures. They're nice and loose, nice and warm. So really do prioritize that warm up. And in reality, a way to make running in the cold much easier is to warm up inside. If you've got space in your kind of like doorway in your kitchen, whatever it's going to be, do a few dynamic movements in the warmth. And then you're going to want to get outside and actually start running because you're getting a bit hot and bothered inside. But so really prioritize that warm up. And then at the same time in reverse, when you finished your run, we also don't want to let our body get really cold, seize up really quickly. So prioritize getting straight in the shower, warming yourself up, putting on some layers, and all of this will help reduce the risk of injury and ultimately make running in the winter feel much more comfortable as well.
Yeah, I promise you that warm up will make that first rep feel easier, and you won't be using that first rep to warm up and potentially miss out on the pace target. If you can't run outdoors though, you can train on the treadmill. I hate treadmill running, but sometimes if you just put on Netflix, you can make yourself do it.
Yeah, for sure. For anyone who does run on the treadmill this winter, make sure you use Runna's treadmill setting, and we will make sure we track your workout perfectly and help guide you through your intervals as well. I think one of the things when it comes to running outdoors through the winter, though, is what to wear. And it's always an interesting one, because do you wear the right layers for your first mile, or should you be wearing the layers for the middle and the end of your run? Because obviously we're going to warm up as we get going. What do you do, Anya?
Well, yeah, I think Colleen mentioned this, one of our other coaches at Runna, but to dress 10 degrees colder than it actually is, because you will warm up. So I'd prefer to start my run feeling a little bit chillier. And yeah, as I sweat and get warmer, I'll become more comfortable.
For sure. But it's also worth considering the workout we're going to be doing. If we're going to be doing our intervals, or if we're going to be doing a tempo workout where we're massively varying our intensity, or we've got any kind of like rest periods as well, that could be a good way to think about doing maybe almost dressing for two different workouts. And so if you're going to be doing your intervals, running back and forth on the same section of road or whatever, bring a layer, an old hoodie, chuck it in a bush after you've done your warm up, smash your intervals, and then put it on for that easy jog home. And it will make things feel that much easier. And you'll also be looking forward to that cool down jog that much more as well.
Yeah, I guess that is tip number 3, is dress for the weather appropriately. It's really important to also, when it's dark, to have your reflective gear, to have a head torch, anything that will just be one less thing to worry about and make your run a little bit more comfortable, especially if it's like wet or cold outside as well.
For sure. And I think, obviously any equipment, anything we've got to go and buy is doing one more thing. But in reality, we will need to be well dressed and have the right equipment if we're going to be running through the peak of winter. And obviously that depends where we are living in the world, whether it's snowy or it's wet or it's cold. But if we're going to go and need that equipment come December, I would really encourage you guys to think that through and invest early. And that way, when it starts to get bad, you've got kit that you're excited for, excited to go and wear, excited to go and use, excited to go and use your nice big bright head torch. And then your first dark run or your first wet, cold, windy run goes really well. And that then means you get a positive experience, which makes the mental association of training hard through the winter feel that much easier, rather than you start in your summer kit, in your shorts and your t-shirt, it goes awfully. And then after a month of not running, you then go and retrospectively buy what you need. Obviously, it's expensive, but where possible, would really encourage you to think ahead and invest early, and that's going to mean that you can run continuously through those harder months.
Yeah. I guess number 4 is staying healthy. In winter, we are far more prone to a few colds and flus. Do you have any tips to help avoid that?
Yes, we mentioned warming up and cooling down as important things to be doing, but I think the thing that often comes on is that people get ill more often than not in the winter. And connected to this is that we don't want to get cold quickly after a run. So would really encourage you, when you finish your run, make sure you're prioritizing warming up quickly or avoiding getting cold. You come in from your run, get your wet clothes off quickly and get in the shower or get dry clothes on as quickly as possible to keep your body temperature from getting cold. And that's going to massively help fight off the chance of getting sick.
I also focus on vitamins, and I try to supplement with vitamin C and vitamin D because especially in the UK, we just don't get enough sunlight in the winter. That and eating healthy, nutritious, warming, cozy, comfort food. I think that really helps my immune system and staying fit and healthy.
Yep. One of the things that a lot of studies will point out and show is that the body often needs a little bit more sleep in the winter. So do prioritize maybe getting around about 30 minutes more sleep at night throughout the winter as well. And that's probably going to be a little easier when the sun's not coming up and shining in through the curtains as well. Another one that we can do, we mentioned kind of using the treadmill, but the winter can be a great time to prioritize on other areas of our overall fitness and our overall kind of running ability. And one of those things can be doing a bit more strength and mobility work. You could be avoiding running in the rain and going and doing your easy run on the treadmill, but given you've gone to the gym, what a better excuse than to go and bolt on a strength workout. So it could be a way to spend more time out of the cold and prioritize building a really strong base that's going to reduce your risk of injury when the nice weather comes back round and you're spending more time outdoors again.
Sometimes, though, getting ill just is inevitable. I would say you've got to be kind to yourself. And I have made the mistake so many times of trying to run through that cold and making it worse. Do you have any top tips for if the inevitable unfortunately does happen?
Yeah, I think when we have a little illness, it is tempting to push through it, but that will undoubtedly make that illness worse and last a lot longer. And the thing we want to do when we're not feeling good is get back to our running, get back to feeling great. And the fastest way you can get there is to stop, is to rest, is to spend the time in bed, focus on eating some good food and recover. And then when you feel good again, we would want to ease ourselves back in, not just jump back to where we were. So test things out. Maybe that's doing a walk run, or maybe that's going back in with an easy run first. And when you're confident that the symptoms of cold or flu or whatever it is behind you, that's when we can return to our kind of regular training. A very exciting thing that we have been working on behind the scenes at Runna is what we call not feeling 100%. And you'll be able to come into your Runna plans soon and be able to tell us that you have been off running for a week, you've been off running for 2 weeks, or your running has been less than you might have liked. We will then adapt your training and then ease you back into it. So you have that to look forward to there as well. Mm-hmm. One of the things that people struggle with through the winter, Anya, is safety. What do you do as a woman running in busy London to stay as safe as possible?
Yeah, I think it's, especially a thing in the dark, being a woman. It can often feel a little bit scary. I would always prioritize a lit running route. You'll just feel a bit more comfortable. Try and go on routes that you know well. You know where the dodgy bits might be. You know where is safe. You know your surroundings. If you don't have that, a lit track can be really helpful just because it's consistent and you know you're safe and there's often people around. Try to avoid little alleyways or uncertain bits. Stick to a pavement, stick to a lit route or a park.
Yep. And there's also a ton of helpful technologies out there that can help you work out where to run and also help you communicate your location out to those important to you as well. I think one of the most important things to shout out here would be Strava's route functionality. Mm-hmm. So you can go on Strava's route map and you can always see where are the popular running roads and running locations, especially if you're on a holiday and trying to find somewhere enjoyable to run or somewhere that's safe to run in your hometown as well. But you can now filter it by night and by daytime. So you can find where people typically run at night, which is going to be particularly important because it may well be that a particular road is not popular or not safe to run through at night. so then you can kind of copy where the popular locations are at the respective time zones as well. And there's lots of other things that you can do as well, like using Strava Beacon or sharing your Garmin location, or even using kind of Find My Friends on your iPhone. And all of these things will be a helpful way to communicate where you are out on your run as well.
Yeah, I do always try to bring a phone with me, and I often don't listen to music just because I like to be aware of my surroundings. But if you feel like you really need that music or that playlist for the motivation, there are bone conduction headphones which work really well to hear both your music and your surroundings, or just run with friends because you'll feel a bit safer and they can help pass the time.
Yep, could be a really good reason to go and join the local run club that you're a little bit nervous to go and join, and before you know it, you'll have lots of friends to run with in the spring.
The final point I really want to cover is celebrating your wins. Training in winter is really hard, but you train hard so you can race easy, and you can use that motivation of, if I manage to do that session in the dark, in the rain, I can do this race now in the spring when the weather's a whole lot better. I think it makes you a stronger, more mentally tough runner.
Like you said, with train hard, race easy, I think doing whatever your mantra, whether it's summer bodies are made in winter or whatever it is, I think you can know that all of that hard work is going to be what makes you feel so fantastic when the weather starts to get better again, the days start to get longer, and you can go and stand on the start line of a spring half marathon or your London marathon in April, and you are going to feel so fantastic for it. And to then know that you've got 6 months of just fantastic weather to get to go and enjoy all of that. And the more that we can do to stay consistent this winter, the more that we're going to feel fantastic in the summer. And it's so much about that habit formation. And if we can do that through the winter, we've done it through the spring, we're going to do it next spring. And before you know it, that's 5 years have gone by, and you are seeing that long-term consistency stack up. And before you know it, you're achieving running goals like Anya's done.
I'm going to throw another mantra in there. It's do what others aren't so you can do what others can't. And I know this is ridiculous, but you do have this little sense like, I've achieved something so good that I've managed to go out in the cold. Like, I'm better than all those people that haven't. And that is really motivational to me. So I think all those little things, as you say, just to help keep you consistent, works really well.
Yeah, and you're going to beat all your friends who don't go and train that day, but the real person you're going to beat, and the thing that we learned from talking to everyone that we do here on the Runner podcast, is you're going to beat yourself. Like, if you go out and run when the easiest thing to do is not to run, you are winning. And that's going to mean that you keep improving and you become the best version of yourself, which is the reason why we all run, and the reason why you'll get faster, and the reason why you'll get stronger. So keep pushing, and I'm sure you'll look back on your 2025 winter as a really good one.
Yeah, you'll be so pleased you did it. I'm very good at bribing myself. I can say, go for that run, and you can come in and have a nice hot drink or a hot meal, a hot shower. Those little celebrations, those little wins, rewarding yourself, I also think is really important.
Wow, this is really motivating me to want to get out the door and go on my evening run tonight.
I think that's just it. I think even if you're a pro or a beginner, like, we all struggle with that motivation in winter, but it's important to be kind to yourself and just have that mental self-belief that you can do it. We've got a few sillier questions now. Some this or that, Spen.
Gosh, right, let's go for it.
Would you rather do every run in the cold this winter or every run in the dark?
Ooh. I think cold, but sunshine. What about you?
There is nothing better than like a crisp winter's morning. But then also I try to like switch in my head running in the dark, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, you're so badass. Like, you're going to smash this run. But yeah, no, it's, but I'm a morning runner, and I like morning runs. Oh, it's actually harder than I thought. No, I'm going to do daylight running.
Nice. We're in agreement. It's a rare sight.
Next up, only ever run on a treadmill or a track this winter?
Oh, I think this is even easier. I imagine you'll be picking the same. I think without doubt, the track. I think the track is so fun. Also, the track is probably like one of the things we mentioned was like going running, dumping your layers, smash your intervals, put your layers back on and jog home. And I think like the track's the perfect place for that. Run there in some nice warm layers, smash your workout. No matter how hard it's raining, you're going to be sweaty. You're going to be wet afterwards. You're going to need a hot shower. So then it doesn't matter what weather's thrown at you. Put your layers on and jog home. I mean, maybe that's going against the question because you're not allowed to jog to and from the track. But I'm taking the track over an entire winter of treadmill running. What about you?
I agree. I run to be outside, and yeah, it just makes me a little bit tougher. I agree. I love track running in winter. I feel like you run really well in the cold, and like you can actually smash your intervals. The hardest bit is just getting out.
And the runs will look much better on Strava if they're outdoors than if they're on the treadmill.
And finally, last this or that, you're only allowed to either warm up or cool down this winter. Which are you going for?
That's mean.
Should we say which is more important?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to say which is more important. I mean, they're both very important. I think it probably depends on the workout. I think I'm going to go with the argument that I would rather only cool down and do a good stretch when I finish my runs, given that I can still do a nice, easy warm-up jog. So I'm not going to do any dynamic movements, but I will always build into my workouts with a nice warm-up jog, and then I'll finish with a proper stretch. That's my answer. What about you?
I agree. I think in winter, it's really important to warm up because your muscles might be a little bit more stiff. So I think in winter, definitely do the warm up, and it's cold anyway. Like, you don't need to cool down. No, you do. You need to cool down. But in the summer, you've just done a really hot race. I'd be more likely to skip the cool down than the warm up.
Okay. Well, the good news is everyone at home doesn't need to skip either. So yeah, you've got no excuses and don't skip either. And the reason why we can't decide is because clearly they're both so valuable.
I agree. And I think we are both now ready to train this winter. I think if you've got a spring marathon, a spring goal, we're all in this together. We're all going to be training through the winter, and I'll probably need to listen to this back to get some of my own advice and my own motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I am very excited. For me personally, next year in February, so still in the winter, I will turn 30, and I want to make sure that I am the fittest I've ever been at 30, and so I'm not going to get there unless I train hard this winter. So I'm telling you guys all that. You guys need to work out what your goals are, and then tell your friends, say it out loud, and then that will be there to help keep you accountable as well.
We hope this episode was helpful, and enjoy running this winter. You've got this.